I don't know what I was expecting from my trip to Palestine, but I certainly did not expect to walk away with racial tensions between myself and the Black people in our group. And that's really disappointing for me to admit, because I was so excited to go on this trip with Black Americans, because I was always under the impression that Black people will be our greatest allies because they understand more than anybody what it's like to live under occupation, what it's like to be oppressed and racially profiled. But during the trip, it felt like some people were too busy playing oppression Olympics to fully grasp the experiences of Palestinians living in Palestine. Some people came on the trip with a very limited understanding of the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause, which is problematic in and of itself. But the most problematic thing was the fact that some people were applying a Western lens of racial dynamics to a place where it does not apply. I am not going to sit here and deny that anti-Blackness exists in every single part of the world. But the issue of race is much different in Palestine than in most other places in the world. In Palestine, Palestinians of all colors are undoubtedly the most oppressed people. In Palestine, a non-Palestinian Black person is more privileged than a Palestinian of any color. And an American, Black or white, is one of the most privileged people in Palestine, right beneath Israelis. Some people in the group were too busy victimizing themselves and taking out their anger on all the wrong people to sit with the reality that in modern day, there are some people that are more oppressed than them. One person in particular was incredibly problematic, especially considering she was one of the group leads who was hosting private conversations exclusively for the 7 Black people in the group, which under almost any other circumstances I would encourage. I encourage Black people to create safe spaces for themselves to discuss racial issues among themselves. But the issue is that the only comments I heard come out of this person's mouth about Palestine and Palestinians were negative, were about how racist we are, were about how slavery persisted until the 20th century in Palestine, which is such an uneducated take, by the way. It was not exclusive to Black people, and it was not done mostly by Palestinians. So I believe these conversations being hosted by a person who came to Palestine with biases against Palestinians were so dangerous to Palestinians and ultimately to Black Palestinian solidarity. The most ironic part about all of this is the fact that we sat and had dinner with Afro-Palestinians in Palestine. We sat and broke bread with the family who runs the Afro-Pali Center in Jerusalem. And they are Black. They are visibly Black. And yet they are highly respected in the Palestinian community for the work that they do for Palestinians. I even talked to the chef at our hotel in the last couple of days, who was a political prisoner. He had just gotten out of prison 2 months before we arrived in Palestine. And he told us that he sat side by side with an Afro-Palestinian, son of the couple who runs the Afro-Pali Center. He sat with him in prison, and he was shocked when I asked him about racism in Palestine, because he was like, those are my brothers. I don't care what color they are. During this trip, I sat with Palestinians and I told them, talk to me bluntly. I'm a Palestinian. I'm not going to judge our community. Talk to me about racism in Palestine. And every single one of them was like, what is there to say? Like, racism exists in every community, yes. But in Palestine, it's actually few and far between, because the issue of race is so much more complicated in a place like Palestine. And I have been involved in Black activism for many years. And I know that when I am in Black spaces, it is not my place to call out issues within the Black community, especially when those people are being slaughtered. When I am in Black spaces, I am there to observe, to learn, to be an ally, not to call out Black people. By the way, these same people who sat there and talked all this shit about how racist Palestinians are did not hesitate to pose in front of a ginormous George Floyd mural painted by a Palestinian artist. They posed with that artist in front of the mural. And I bet they wouldn't dare look that artist in the face and say that he's racist. By the way, go support that artist. He's Banksy.2 on Instagram. He's an incredible person, incredible artist who I'm still in communication with. He is struggling right now. His daughter is in the hospital, so please reach out and try to help in any way that you can. But I refused to pose in that picture with the rest of the group because literally an hour before that, they were making fun of Palestinians. We passed a mural that was supposed to be, I believe, of Nelson Mandela, but it wasn't the greatest art. And so it kind of looked like George Floyd, and they couldn't tell who it was. And they literally said, "I'm so sick of these people." And yet they won't hesitate to pose in front of a George Floyd mural for a social media photo op. Even when we were about to walk into a masjid, there were beggars outside the masjid who asked some people for money. And she made a comment about how, "Oh, notice how they're not asking the black people for money because they think all black people are poor." And I said, "You don't know that. Those same people didn't ask me, a Palestinian American, for money. They're not assuming I'm poor. In fact, when they know you're American, you're immediately up here to them. They immediately assume you have money and that you're privileged in ways that they'll never experience." The reason that they didn't ask some people for money had nothing to do with the fact that those people are black. They simply just approached a few people out of the entire group asking for money. I could ramble about this for hours because it was one of the most frustrating things of my life to watch people come from America to a place like Palestine and act like they're more oppressed than people literally living under occupation. And it's so ironic because the entire time I'm trying to find parallels between the lives of Palestinians, between the racial profiling that I experienced as a Palestinian and the experiences of black people in America. I thought that this would be an opportunity for us to come together and understand each other better, not to create more division. But this is why some people are so dangerous to the movement, not only to the pro-Palestinian movement, but also to black activism. Because if I was somebody else, if I haven't already done so much work for the black community, if I didn't already have a deep understanding of racial dynamics, this entire experience might have pushed me away from the black community. But I know that these rotten tomatoes in the community do not represent the black community as a whole. One of the most ironic parts about all of this is that before making this video, I was sitting in a cafe in Amman, journaling my thoughts about this topic, and I got interrupted by a waiter at the restaurant who asked me where I'm from, and we started chatting, and it turns out he is Jamaican and Palestinian. But ultimately, I think if you have internal biases against Palestinians, you should not be going to Palestine. And if you don't want to acknowledge the experiences of Palestinians in their entirety, then to be honest, we don't need you as an ally. Seeing what Palestinians are going through only makes you think, yeah, no, we have it worse. When you're an American, you are not a true ally. And I will be talking more about the issue of people taking trips to Palestine with a limited understanding of Palestinians and Palestinian history, because there were so many other issues with some of the people who went on this trip for all the wrong reasons.
So according to this woman, she went on a trip to Palestine with a group of other American people, right? And once she got there, the black Americans just randomly started playing the Oppression Olympics, right? Just out of nowhere, just, oh, we have it worse, we have it bad, right? Now, I haven't seen any other perspectives of this situation. I haven't seen any of the black people post about this or come forward saying anything about this, right? But we can assume what happened. Now, I've never been to Palestine, but I've been a couple places internationally, a couple places in Europe. I've been to South America, the Caribbean, and Canada. That barely counts as another country because I'm from Detroit, but I list it anyway, okay? And this is the thing, right? To non-black people, you are black, and that is it, all right? I don't care if you are also a woman or also LGBTQ or a scientist or a musician or a this or a that or a blah or a blah. They don't see any of that. They simply see you as black, okay? So when those black people went to Palestine, I assure you, I promise you, okay? Those Palestinians didn't see them as Americans and this and that and so and so and so. They saw them as black people, and that was all, right? Now, I will say this, something that she refused to acknowledge, right? Intersectionality does exist. So realistically, right? When I go somewhere, first of all, half the time, they're not even going to believe that I'm American because I'm black. They think that all black people are from Africa, right? So after I argue them down, I really am American, right? Realistically, they might very well treat me better than an African or a Caribbean because of the fact that I am American, right? But they are not going to treat me better than any non-black person of any background, baby. Like, no, okay? If there is a Chinese person from Jamaica, they're getting treated better than me, even though I'm from America, because I'm black, okay? In this society, blackness, race, whatever, takes the forefront. That is the facts. The odd thing about this woman's video is that in one breath, she claims, oh, those black American Westerners don't understand that race is different in Palestine and so and so and so. Then in the next breath, she says, yes, anti-blackness is a global thing. Oh, yeah, I talked to some Palestinians. They said, yeah, racism is a thing here too, but it's not as bad here, right? So it's like you literally acknowledged that anti-blackness is a global thing. And you even said yourself that them Palestinians told you, yeah, we racist, right? But still, you're demonizing the black Americans on the trip because clearly, I mean, like I said, I didn't see any other accounts for, this story, of what happened, right? But clearly those black Americans experienced some racism and they reacted to it like, yo, like this is messed up, right? And you're demonizing them for that. Like you're acknowledging that anti-blackness exists. You know good and well that they experienced racism. Like you just said, anti-blackness is global. It's everywhere. And even the Palestinians said, yeah, it's racism here too, right? So you know good and well that those black Americans experienced some racism and that this didn't just come out of nowhere, but you're still trying to vilify them. Like, what the heck? Y'all remember a couple years ago, there's some program where people go overseas to help out for a year or two. I can't think of what it's called, right? But a couple years ago, when the war in Ukraine was like first getting a bunch of attention, right? That organization literally released a statement and said, oh, black people, before you sign up to come here to volunteer, understand that you'll experience racism. They'll probably call you the N-word and stuff, right? So, like, of course, that's Ukraine. That's not Palestine, right? But my point is this. No matter where we go, okay, whether it's the Western world, the Eastern world, the Northern world, the Southern world, anti-blackness is a thing. So for you to get on here and try to belittle black Americans and downplay what we experienced and say, oh, you're a Westerner, you're coming from a place of privilege. Bitch, I'm black. I don't give a fuck if I'm a Westerner, a Easterner, a Southerner, or what the fuck ever. I'm black. And everywhere I go, I'm going to experience racism. And what I don't like about y'all is that you all are anti-black and you believe that if you target your anti-blackness towards black Americans, it'll be received well. You know what I'm saying? So you didn't get your ignorant ass on here and call out black people, period. No, you made sure to focus on black Americans because then you could say we're coming from a place of privilege because we're Westerners and Americans and so and so and so. And a lot of times Africans and Caribbeans will hype y'all up with that stupid shit. Yeah, black Americans make everything about race. Yeah, they're privileged Americans. That American superiority, so and so and so. A lot of times Africans and Caribbeans will kiki right along with y'all dumbasses, right? So you sat here and you did that on purpose. You did it on purpose. You know good and well those black Americans went there and they experienced racism. Instead of you saying, yeah, that's messed up shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, we fucked up, right? You got on here and somehow you took the role of the victim. That's the most like alarming part of white supremacy for me, because that's what you did. You upheld white supremacy. Like, girl, look at you. You're off white. You're basically white, right? Like, be for real. The most confusing part of white supremacy for me is the fact that black people will be attacked and then somehow we're always the aggressors and everybody else is the victim. You telling me them good black folks went to Palestine to help y'all out, right? And y'all were racist to them and they got upset by it and somehow y'all the fucking victims? Are you fucking stupid? You gotta be. You are. I don't know why I asked that. It's the fact that y'all always find a way to belittle the validity of black people's complaints. Like, those black people have every right to complain about the racism they experienced in Palestine. And instead of you sitting here and be like, yeah, that's messed up, that's bold, right? You sitting here talking about, yeah, some of those black Americans came just to play the Oppression Olympics. Bitch, are you fucking stupid? Do you really think that they made that trip to play the Oppression Olympics? Like, are you fucking dumb? Like, realistically, I don't even know what program y'all were a part of or anything. But realistically, I'm sure it costed money to go over there, right? Like, I doubt, like, it was free. You know what I'm saying? I doubt anybody was getting paid to go over there, right? They went over there out of the kindness of their hearts and experienced racism. And this is my thing. Can you imagine how frustrating it is as a black person when you get that wake-up call, when you realize it doesn't matter how nice you are, how helpful you are to non-black people, they're going to hate you regardless. They can be in the middle of a fucking genocide and you can go to help them and they will still find time to be racist to you. That is like the most sobering realization as a black person, right? So you telling me that they went through that and then when they complained about it, yo stupid ass in here talking about they want to play the Oppression Olympics. Bitch, it wouldn't be no Oppression Olympics if y'all would just not be racist. Like, what are we talking about here, right? And then this is my other thing. Y'all always find time to be racist. Y'all can be in the middle of a fucking famine, of a war, of a genocide, of whatever, and y'all will find time to be racist to black people. Like, black people can be the ones rendering aid, baby. We can be the ones driving the ambulances on the battlefield, getting out to give folks CPR and shit. And y'all will still be racist to us. And then when we complain about it, we get gaslit. Oh, well, you're a Westerner. You don't understand the racial so-and-so and so's of Palestine. Girl, shut up. Now, I'm going back through her video to make sure I touch on every topic. And I'm going to repeat myself again. The fact that she was talking about, oh, yeah, you're applying a Western lens to the racial aspect of Palestine, so and so and so. Then went on to say, yeah, anti-blackness is a global phenomenon, and yeah, I asked them, and racism exists here too. So what are you talking about applying a Western lens? And this is what I'm talking about. Y'all use trigger words to try to silence black Americans. When we speak up against some shit, y'all say, well, shut up, you're a Westerner, you're an American, so you're privileged, so and so and so. You just say shit. It doesn't have to make sense. You just say shit. She then goes on an entire rant talking about Palestinians of every color are the most oppressed in Palestine. A black person who is not Palestinian is more privileged, so and so and so. Clearly, that is a fucking lie because these black Americans went over there and experienced racism. According to you, they should not have experienced racism since they're not Palestinian. And according to you, Palestinians of every color are the most oppressed, right? But no, they went over there and experienced racism any fucking way. Like this whole video she made does not even make sense. Next, she goes on to say, yeah, the black people were holding meetings. And normally, I'd be like, of course, create your safe spaces. But my issue is that one of the people who was doing this was a leader of the group, and she had nothing positive to say about Palestinians. She was talking about, slavery wasn't abolished until the 20th century, and that's such an uneducated take, and it didn't only affect black people, so and so and so. Okay, first of all, we have to get past this idea that black people have to take y'all abuse with a smile, okay? Y'all have this idea that y'all should be able to be racist and treat us like animals and shit, and that we have to be happy about it, okay? So my thing is this. If I paid money and went across the world to help some people out, right? And then when I get there, they were racist, I would be mad as fuck. And then let's take the money out the equation because I don't know what program they were a part of, right? Maybe it was free. Maybe they got scholarships, whatever, right? Just period. If I went across the world with love in my heart, like, I'm going to help these people. They going through ABC and XYZ. And then when I get there, They treat me like a fucking animal. I have every right to be pissed the fuck off, bitch. I don't have to say shit nice. And like I said, that's y'all fucking problem. Y'all got this mentality that y'all should be able to abuse black people, and we just gotta sit there and fucking take it with a smile. Like, bitch, nobody has to say shit polite about your racist fucking ass. Like, are you fucking stupid? So then she goes on to say, oh yeah, she was talking about, slavery didn't end in Palestine until the 20th century. That's such an uneducated take. Bitch, she was talking about that because clearly that plays into the present fucking day. Are you dumb? The 20th century, that was yesterday. You really think that slavery just ended in the 20th century and there are no lingering views about the black people in Palestine? And then your ass lied talking about, oh, it wasn't just about black people. Yes, the fuck it was. The black Palestinians were enslaved, and all the black Palestinians still living there are descended from the slaves. Like, literally, you lying ass motherfucking bitch. Like, then she goes on to say, yeah, this person came to Palestine with biases against Palestinians, and that's a threat to black and Palestinian solidarity. Bitch, there is no black and Palestinian solidarity. You see, those black people went to Palestine to try to help y'all out, and what were they met with? A bunch of fucking racism. Now, this is my thing, because she goes on to say, yeah, I'm such an ally for the black community. First of all, it's a damn shame that this is our ally. Like, girl, go to hell. We better off without you. Like, goodness, bitch, like, who needs enemies when you got friends like this? This is the black ally, the fuck? But anyway, right? So she says, yeah, you know, I've been in the black community helping them out and so, yada, yada, yada. And guess what? I bet you didn't experience any fucking racism. That's the difference, bitch. You come up in our community and we welcome you with open arms. We go into yours and we're treated like fucking animals, bitch. That is the difference. That is literally the difference right there. She goes on to then say, yeah, we broke bread with Afro-Palestinians. We had dinner with the guy who runs the Afro-something museum. And, you know, like, they're well-respected members of the community. So, yada, yada, yada. I'm confused. How does that in any way mean that racism does not exist? Like, are you fucking stupid? Like, you, again, clearly you are dumb. But that's like saying, oh, because Beyonce is a celebrity, racism doesn't exist no more because Beyonce is a celebrity and she black. Like, what? You know, and it's crazy. It's crazy because years ago, right? Y'all know I used to be a teacher. I had this little white girl. And she came to me because she was like, yeah, my dad doesn't believe in racism and so and so and so. And he's like, well, if there's racism, then how are there black millionaires? Yada, 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 blah, 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 right? So I said, okay, ask your dad if he thinks there was racism in the year. I said 19-something, right? Whenever Madam C.J. Walker was alive, she became the first black millionaire. Hold up, let me look up the year. Madam C.J. Walker was born in 1867, 2 years after slavery ended, right? And she died in 1919. Now, there's no specific date on when she became a millionaire, but I told her, okay, ask your daddy, because Madam C.J. Walker was born in 1867, right? Ask him if he thinks that racism existed in 1867, right? 2 years after slavery, okay? And then when he says yes, of course he's going to admit to that, right? Say, well, Madam C.J. Walker was born then, and she became a millionaire. So according to you, there was no racism at that time since she became a millionaire, right? And she went home and she did that, and she was like, he didn't have a response for her. I said, yeah, shut that dumbass the fuck up. And that brings us back to this point. Bitch, who gives a fuck if you broke bread with some Afro-Palestinians and their respected members of the community? What the fuck does that have to do with racism? In no way does that mean that there's no racism. Like, what? Now, the woman goes on to say, oh, those same people who claimed Palestinians were racist posed in front of some big mural of George Floyd, so-and-so, and so I bet they wouldn't dare call that artist racist. First of all, I bet you they would. The fuck? If he do some racist shit, I bet you they will call him racist, goof. Like, why wouldn't they? What? But then, anyway, maybe he's not racist. Shit, I'm sure they would not call him racist if he's not racist, right? But you're telling me that that one Palestinian not being racist and making a statue of George Floyd means that racism doesn't exist in Palestine and that those black Americans were just playing the oppression Olympics and so and so and so. Like, none of this makes sense. Again, this shit is dumb. It's dookie. Now, the woman goes and she basically ends the video saying, I thought this would be an opportunity for black people and Palestinians to come together, but instead some people created more division and so and so and so, you know, like I was trying to find parallels between what black Americans go through and what Palestinians are going through. And if I was a different person, then, you know, I might have been pushed away from the black community, but I won't let these bad apples, you know, poison my view, whatever, right? I'm confused. She's blaming the black Americans for the division, when the Palestinians were the ones who were racist. Like, what? You mad at us because we did not react kindly to y'all being racist instead of being mad at your peoples for being racist? How are we the ones causing the division? I'm confused. That's like, imagine, right? Somebody throws a party, right? And they invite two separate friends, friend A and friend B. Okay? Now, actually, say no. Say it's a friend and a family member. And say the family member starts a fight with the friend, throws the first punch, right? And the friend defends themselves, right? And then they're like, yo, I'm leaving. You know what I'm saying? I'm not about to be here. Folks is acting funny, hitting me and stuff. I'm leaving, right? And then the person who throws the party says, you're being divisive. I brought us all together hoping we could come together and so and so and so. And you being divisive. What are you talking about? Your people's just swung on me. Like, what are you saying? How am I being divisive because I'm not happy that y'all attacked me? Like, what the fuck? But that's what I'm saying. Black people are somehow always wrong. I mean, like, what? Y'all was racist, but you mad at us because we mad at you for being racist. Let me tell you the reality of being black, okay? For your entire life, people insist, right, that racism is your fault as a black person, right? Like, they'll say stuff like, oh, there's a difference between black people and niggers, like black people are just regular black folks, and then the niggers are the ones who act like ABC or XYZ, right? They'll tell you that if you dress a certain way or talk a certain way or go to college and get a degree, that they'll respect you, right? So if you code switch into, a white dialect and you wear a suit and tie instead of sagging your pants and you go to college and all that stuff, they'll respect you, right? And a lot of black people internalize these beliefs. A lot of black people really adhere to these respectability politics. They really believe that if they behave the way that these people tell them to behave, that's, they won't experience racism, right? So can you imagine as a black person, you work so hard to be the acceptable form of black, right? You learn white people's standard English, you go to college and get a fancy degree, you dress like this, you blah, 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 you're so and so and so, right? And guess what the first thing a non-black person is going to call you anyway, right? Do you think they're going to be like, whoa, upstanding citizen? Oh, you're one of the good ones. No, the first thing they call you is going to be an N-word because they don't actually give a fuck if you have a degree or not. They don't give a fuck if you speak standard English or AAVE. They don't give a fuck if you sag your pants or you wear your Sunday's best. They don't give a fuck about none of that shit. But they've managed to convince you that the reason that they're racist is your fault because you act a certain way. It's not their fault, right? If you act however, then they won't be racist, right? But that is not true. I'm going to make some assumptions about those black people who went to Palestine. Now, like I said, I'm just assuming here because I didn't see any, perspectives from anybody else but this woman, right? So I'm just going out on a limb here, right? Those black people were probably college educated. I'm assuming this was some sort of study abroad or something, whatever, right? And if they weren't college educated, then, they're clearly aware of what's going on around the world, right? They're not the type of black people who, their bubble is only the block, right? They're aware of what's going on in Palestine. They have the means to go there, right? Because again, I'm assuming this trip cost money, but even if it didn't, right? Not everybody has the means to get up and go on a trip, period. Even if some people got a free trip to Palestine, they wouldn't have the money they need to, buy food while they there or whatever, right? So I'm assuming these black people were some of the good ones, so to speak, right? Do you know how sobering that has to be, right? For you to spend your whole life thinking, oh, if I act right, then these people will respect me, right? And you go all the way across the world to help with some issue, and you realize that these people view you as nothing. Mind you, these people are going through a fucking genocide, right? Like, these people are going through a whole fucking genocide, and still they view you, the person coming there to help them, as fucking nothing just because you're black. That's like a serious wake-up call. I bet you those black people were really hurt, like seriously hurt, right? And this is the thing, ever since the Palestine and Israel conflict has been getting international coverage, there's kind of been a divide in the black community, right? So some people in the black community have been like those people who went to Palestine. They've been like, hey, we standing up for everybody, we all got to work together. We got to be allies to other communities, so and so and so, yada, 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 right? And then other people in the black community were more like, yeah, I'm not standing up for anybody who's not black because those people hate me, right? And there's been, again, this like 50-50. Some people are on one side and some people are on the other, right? And I was always on the side of course, it's sad to hear about anybody going through genocide, being bombed and stuff. That's horrific, right? But bottom line, end of the day, I'm not extending my emotions and my resources to people who hate me, right? And you shouldn't ask me to. You shouldn't ask black people to donate money and resources and go help groups who fucking hate us, right? That's unfair of you to even ask us. My thing is this. To the woman who made this video, the least you could do is be understanding, right? You could at least be like, yeah, I know that these people are racist, right? My community has its flaws, but if you can find it in your heart to still help, we appreciate it. If not, understandable, right? That's the least you could do. But the fact that you sat here and tried to demonize black people for not being happy about you all being racist, and you pretended that we at all have to deal with your shit, right? Like, the fuck, right? That goes to show you that you're not an ally to black people. What you wanted was not for us to come together. What you wanted was not mutual respect or mutual love or anything like that. No, what you wanted was for black people to come there and mule for y'all, and that be that. This is my thing. I always try to put myself in other people's shoes, right? So let's come up with a scenario. Let's say that the black American community was struggling, and we is, right? And let's say that there was an African billionaire, millionaire, something, right, who said, oh, I'm going to help out the African American community. I'm going to go to Detroit and Chicago and, other predominantly African American cities, and I'm going to feed them, set up a soup kitchen 7 days a week, 3 meals a day, whatever, right? Like, I'm going to help them out, right? And let's say when he got here, he experienced xenophobia from black Americans. Let's say people were mocking his accent or making fun of him for being African or something, right? My thing is this, right? As a black American, I would not tell that man, oh, you're being divisive if you don't just help us anyway. The fuck? Like, what kind of shit is that? I would tell him, yo, that's messed up. If you can find it in your heart of hearts to still help folks out, then, we thankful for it, right? But if you can't, then shit, fuck it. You're under no obligations to do shit for anybody who is mean to you. You don't have to do shit for nobody, especially not no motherfucker who treat you like ass. Like, what? So I'm confused. Why, when it's a situation with black people and non-black people, do non-black people have this belief that black people owe them? Because, I guess it just comes back to the fact that you all believe that we're your mules. You can treat us like animals, beat us and abuse us, and we just have to keep working for you any fucking way. Y'all really don't even view us as human. That's what it really boils down to.